All right, what is up, my loves? Today we're going to be chatting about whether or not sexual anxieties can actually be cured. So stick around. All right, what's up? I'm Justina Victoria. I'm a psychosexual expert for men and couples. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a subscriber and you've seen my other videos, welcome back. So today we're going to be chatting about whether or not sexual anxieties can be cured. I do a ridiculous amount of, consultations with guys who are convinced that they are the special one, that whatever they have going on with them, whether that be erectile dysfunction, which, by the way, erectile dysfunction is a sexual anxiety. I've yet to have a single person ever prove me wrong on that. Every single client I've ever had that had erectile dysfunction was cured of erectile dysfunction. So I consider it to be a sexual anxiety because it's something that comes from nervous system dysregulation like the rest of the anxieties. So it lives in the same family under the same umbrella. But I've done, so many consultations with guys, and they're just absolutely convinced that they are the one. It's like, okay, I'm going to call up Justina and I'm going to have a call with her. And, she's like my last resort. Like the doctor has already told, I've already gone to therapy, whatever, or they've just been living that way without any help. And they just have convinced themselves that, they're not, there's no cure for them. But the truth is that sexual anxieties can be absolutely 1000% cured. And when I say cured, I mean cured, like gone forever, never to return. Now, the path to getting to that place is sort of a seesaw, right? So really what causes sexual anxieties in the first place are narratives. So there's stories that we make up about certain situations that cause dysregulation in the nervous system. And once the nervous system is dysregulated, then we cannot perform, which I really honestly hate using that word because sex is not a performance. It's a communion. It's connecting with somebody. It's having a deep, intimate experience with another human being. And so if you're performing, then you're not connecting, right? Performing is all about being in the head, thinking about what's coming next, trying to be like ahead of, or be like one step ahead. We're not doing that when we're having sex because sex is something that happens in what we call a ventral state. Ventral state is where this ventral vagal part of your vagus nerve is activated. And this part of the vagus nerve is all about elevated emotion. When we're activated in this state, we're not thinking. We're not like preemptively coming up with like the next step or thinking about what's going to happen next. We are in the present moment. So if you think about the last time that you did something that you really enjoyed and you were like so consumed in that moment that you weren't thinking about anything else, you were just there. It could have been like a hobby, or it could have been like you were on vacation, or you were at a water park or whatever. Like you were doing something that was so much fun and you were so absorbed in that moment that you did not even have a thought about what was next, right? So this is what we call the ventral state. If you are in sympathetic, which is fight or flight, or you drop down even further on the vagus nerve, which is called the dorsal state, which is an immobilization of energy, or you could think of it as depression. If you're experiencing either of those states, sex does not happen when we're dysregulated. We're in fight or flight or dorsal or in freeze. Any of these states, these are the states where the nervous system is sounding the alarms. Like there's no way in hell that we would be having sex in those, in those states, because that's extremely vulnerable. Like if a lion is chasing you, why would you stop and like take all your clothes off and like have sex with somebody? Like that's that's incongruent, right? It's not aligned to keeping you alive. It's not aligned to your survival. Now, the nervous system does this regardless of whether or not you're thinking about a threat or you have created a narrative about a threat. The brain, the body, the nervous system respond to the images in your mind, the thoughts in your mind, the same way it responds to your 3D world. So that means if you sit around and think about losing your job, you're going to trigger the stress response in your body. Why is that? Because the nervous system cannot tell the difference between real and imagined. So if you're a little boy and you're taught from a very young age that all of your worth and value come from how well your dick works, and then one day you're super stressed, but you don't know that being stressed causes erectile dysfunction, or being stressed causes, you to have premature ejaculation, or not be able to come, or have orgasm anxiety, or be in your head during sex, or whatever it is that you're experiencing. And because we're meaning-making machines, you decide to make up a story about how something's wrong with me. Oh my gosh, my dick doesn't work. Oh my gosh, I can't orgasm. Like, what's happening to me? Oh my gosh, I literally can't stop orgasming. I'm a loser. Like, other guys can last way longer than me. Whatever it is, like, you're making up a story and making a meaning, worst case scenario meaning, about your worth and value and your ability to be a man and your ability to be loved and belong and cherished and, and all of that. And so that narrative that was just created through that experience, because you are not properly educated on how your body functions and why it does what it does, or the messages that it's trying to get through to you, you make up a meaning about it, and that narrative that you have just made up now causes that loop of stress to increase. You're compounding that stress, right? So now you have a narrative about how, oh my gosh, there's something wrong, and I don't know why this is happening, and I don't know how to fix it, right? So now stress response gets stronger. So next time you go to have sex, what happens? Now you're even more in a state of, sympathetic or fight or flight. And because you're even more in that sympathetic or fight or flight mode, your dick is not going to work like even more, right? Or you're going to have these other issues where you can't orgasm, or you orgasm too much, or you're in your head, or whatever it is. And again, what happens is it reinforces, because you don't understand why that's happening. You're not understanding the messages that your body is trying to share with you. What happens? It reinforces that narrative. It increases the stress response. So now every time you have sex, right, you're likely going to have a similar experience that's going to trigger the new narrative that you created, which is then going to reinforce the narrative, which then you're going to collect so much more evidence for. And it's just this loop. And the loop can be as simple as like somebody coming to me who, has experienced like a little bit of, sexual anxiety, performance anxiety, erectile dysfunction, or it could be like somebody who has, essentially moved into a hypervigilant, traumatic level of stress state because they have fed into this loop and they were so blended with this narrative. And they tried harder and harder and harder and harder to change it or fix it or like find a solution. And all they did was just feed that cycle. So I like to use this really fantastic story to highlight, like, I'm going to use the story of a client who had erectile dysfunction. He was a really young guy. I want to say he was like about 22 when he came to me, and he was so freaked out. He was like, I have erectile dysfunction. And you can apply this story that I'm going to share with you to like any sexual anxiety. It's all the same, whether you have erectile dysfunction or you just have you feel like you just have anxiety around sex, or you can't orgasm, or you orgasm too quickly, or you're in your head, or whatever it is for you. Just like insert that, because it's all the same thing. So this client had come to me. He was a really young guy, and he's super freaked out. He's like, I have erectile dysfunction, and like, I don't know what to do, right? So it's like, okay, cool. Like, so when was the first time you experienced that? So he shares with me about how he was with a woman he was in love with, and she ended up breaking up with him. And he was, devastated. He was heartbroken. And we have this first narrative, right? So here comes the first narrative. First narrative is like, okay, I'm experiencing grief and I don't know what to do with it. But I know that like society has taught me that like men don't sit around and cry. They just like move on. They go find something else to fuck or do, right? So I just need to do that. So he goes out and he, instead of honoring the grief that he's experiencing, he tries to like force himself out of it, force himself into the narrative that society has sort of dictated for all of us. And he goes to find somebody to have sex with. His body is not ready. When we're grieving, we're in a dorsal state. Dorsal is an immobilization of energy. So this is the state where you feel depressed, you feel heavy, you feel no motivation, you can't get out of bed, you're heartbroken, you're grief-stricken. It's that really heavy state. So when we go through a breakup or heartbreak, we're typically in that deep dorsal state. So he's in this dorsal state. This is, I mean, the energy that like there's no energy going to your reproductive system when you're in dorsal, right? So but he doesn't know this. He doesn't have this level of education, right? He just thinks like, I'll feel better if I just go fuck somebody else, right? So he goes and he meets this girl and he tries to have sex with her, but he cannot get hard. And this has never happened to him in his whole life. And he's just like mortified, right? And now that his dick's not working, what happens next, right? Here comes another set of narratives. It's like, oh my God, I have been taught my whole life that all of my worth and value stem from my ability to perform sexually, to impress a woman sexually. If I can't do that, then I am nothing. I have no worth and value. I am actual like human garbage that like will never be loved or belong. And that's going to be it for me, right? So here comes this deep, deep, deep subconscious narrative that most men are taught from birth, right? Like your dick is like, it better work, otherwise it's over for you. You might as well just die. So he doesn't understand how his nervous system works. He doesn't understand that he's grieving, right? And his body is trying to communicate with him like, this doesn't feel right. I'm not attracted to this person. I'm grieving. But what he's picking up is that my dick's not working. And oh no, this is serious. This is a problem. This is pitting against like my my vital needs of love and belonging, which by the way are vital. They're hardwired into our brain stem, and they're, according to the nervous system, as far as the nervous system is concerned, equal to food, shelter, water, sleep, oxygen, light, all of our physical needs. Our psychological needs are equal to those. So if our ability to be loved or to belong is being threatened in any way, nervous system is going to go absolute ape shit. So he starts freaking out, right? So you got that first narrative that's just like, okay, to get over this, I just need to have sex with somebody else. Like that's what men do, right? He has no tools because most men are not taught how to deal with their emotions. They're taught to be a man. You need to pick up heavy things. You need to be, emotionally avoidant, and you need to fuck a lot of women. And, so if you were supposed to be emotionally avoidant your whole life, like who is teaching you tools to help you when you inevitably go through something extremely emotionally difficult that you actually cannot avoid, right? So here he is, he doesn't know anything about his body. He's disconnected from like here down, like most men. And he just knows that if his dick doesn't work, he's a loser. So he's freaking out. He's like, okay. That was weird, but like, it's going to be okay. I'm freaking out, but it's going to be okay. So he goes and he meets the girl again like a few days later. He tries to have sex with her and his dick doesn't work. And now he's like really freaked out. And he's just like, oh my gosh, 2 times? Like, I don't know what's happening. But like really, he just didn't understand, right? He didn't understand what was going on in his body. He didn't understand that he was grieving and that's not a time to get an erection. That he really wasn't attracted. Like when we excavated what was going on for him, he really wasn't attracted to this woman. He was just doing it because he thought it would make him feel better. So again, like most men, if you're not like most men that I have worked with really have like a narrative that's like, if a woman wants to have sex with me, I should just have sex with her. Because like that's what I'm supposed to do as a man. I'm just supposed to be like fucking things. And a lot of guys like never realized that they should actually just stop and feel into whether or not they're even attracted to this person, right? It's all about just like worth and value. Like I need to fuck to like be a man, right? So he's not getting these messages. He's not connected to what's happening for him. And on top of that, he's making up a story, a huge, terrifying narrative, which is now causing that stress response to become self-feeding, right? So now he's stuck on a loop. And because he doesn't understand, he doesn't have enough education or understanding of what's going on in his body, now he's like really getting crazy. So I think about a year passed and he literally could not get hard. It'd be really inconsistent. And he ended up finding me. And I had to explain to him what was going on. And once he understood, it was like he was released from that. Now, some clients are not released from that immediately. Some are. I mean, I've had clients, I had a client who had orgasm anxiety. He literally never had an orgasm. He was like in his 40s. He never had an orgasm during sex in his entire life. And just upgrading his understanding of why that is and how his body works and what was going on for him, boom, he was done. Like one session, he was done. He literally had no problem orgasming after that. Other clients have repeated and reinforced this story, and they collected so much evidence for their anxiety or for like their erectile dysfunction or orgasm anxiety or whatever it is, that it takes a couple of months to cure that, to unravel that. I've never had a client ever not be able to completely cure a sexual anxiety, including erectile dysfunction. And I've had special cases. I've had clients who, I had a client who had an autoimmune disease that was attacking his blood vessels. And he actually didn't even come to me for erectile dysfunction. He came to me for, to like strengthen his relationship. And I was like, why are we not working on the ED? And he's like, oh, that's not curable. And I was just like, you don't know me very well. Like I cured an incurable autoimmune disease that almost took my life with my mind, like completely reversed it. So like your erectile dysfunction is no match for me, and I did. I proved it to him that his autoimmune disease was not causing the erectile dysfunction. And so, I have special cases of people come to me with medical issues, and that client was actually a doctor, so like I have several doctors that I've worked with who come to me, and they're in that industry of like, like things are very set in stone. It's just like, if you have this thing, that's it. Like maybe you could try medication. Sorry, but like medication for erectile dysfunction or even anxiety or sexual anxieties, like it's no match for the narratives. Your body is the most intelligent pharmacy there could ever be in existence. And that pharmacy is dependent on the thoughts that you think. If you have a narrative that is about how you are never going to be loved or belong, or you're not a man because a certain part of your physiology is not working in a specific way, you make up a whole meaning about that, your body has to match that thought, that narrative biochemically. It has to create the biochemical equivalent of that, like period. So whether you're working on sexual anxieties, erectile dysfunction, autoimmune diseases, health anxiety, whatever it is, like anything that has to do with, your biochemistry, it all comes down to your thoughts. There's absolutely nobody on this planet who can convince me otherwise because of what I've seen. I've seen people get up out of wheelchairs and walk for the first time in 22 years. I have seen people cure themselves of cancer in 3 months with their mind. I am, a testament to that, in that I, had an autoimmune disease that almost took my life. I couldn't even walk. I was in bed for 5 months. I couldn't eat. I literally could eat 5 foods. I was allergic to every food, including salt. Believe that, like that's crazy, right? So, and it was all based on the narratives that I had created over my life about, food being harmful or what's in the food that's going to hurt me or give me cancer or whatever the fuck, right? Your body is listening to you. It is listening to every narrative that you create, and it is going to match that narrative biochemically. It will be the biochemical equivalent. So you sit there and, you can experiment with this. Close your eyes and imagine that you're eating a lemon, like really visualize that. Then close your eyes and imagine that, somebody that you love just died. Then close your eyes and imagine that you just won the fucking lottery. Like whatever, just imagine a bunch of different scenarios and then feel into your body, like be present with your body and watch as your biochemistry changes based on your thoughts. They always equal whatever it is that you're thinking. So if you have a bunch of heavy narratives around, your ability to perform sexually, those have to be excavated and they have to be unblended from, and a new program, a new narrative has to be installed. And it's a miracle. I mean, I literally watch it all day in my practice. Clients literally who come to me and for, a month or two in the beginning, like the ones who are like really resistant, they have spent like years, like training their brain and wiring their brain to believe that like they're never going to be cured of this. And in like 2 months, I have to like essentially chip away at those narratives. I have to poke holes in those things, but eventually they always crack. They always crack. There's always enough evidence. And I will have to talk to some of these clients till I'm blue in the face. But eventually that whole narrative cracks because it's not real or true. Like we're so powerful. Our thoughts are so powerful. So if you can find the narrative, if you find that, excavate those narratives that are tied to your physiology in your sexuality, right? Those narratives that are causing the stress response, that are causing your sexual anxieties, you write them down, and all you have to do is just start unblending from those things. And if you want more support with this, if this is something that you feel like you're ready to overcome and conquer, I have my boys club, which is it's about a year-long program. If you're really interested in totally evolving your entire self as a man, there's the 4 rights in there, which is masculine energy, integration, seduction, eroticism, and romance. It is literally every piece of knowledge that I could ever possibly teach you. And it's go at your own pace, $69 a month. You can hop in there and just start integrating your masculinity, crushing these narratives that are wedging themselves between you and your power. And then I have my one-on-one practice, which typically is, I usually don't have space, but sometimes if you catch me when a client is essentially graduating, you can get in, you can get lucky. So I have that. You can check these, I have the links here under the video that you can check out. I have my erectile dysfunction course, which is just super in-depth, how do you cure erectile dysfunction and get past it, unblend from those narratives, learn about your nervous system. And I have a sexual anxieties one as well that come with my formulas. I created these sexual formulas to cure erectile dysfunction, to cure sexual anxieties. And you can find that stuff at the link below. And I will see you in the next one.